I found a camp in the woods with hundreds of photos, all of me. And I never knew anyone was watching. If that sends chills down your spine, you need to subscribe right now because what happened next gets so much worse. Hit that subscribe button before I tell you what I found in those folders. I've been jogging the same trail at Riverside Park for 2 years now. 6 a.m. every morning, 5 days a week, like absolute clockwork. Rain or shine, hot or cold, I was out there. I knew every tree, every turn, every patch of wildflowers along that path. It was my routine, my meditation, my therapy before the chaos of the workday, and I felt safe there, completely, utterly safe. That park was mine, or at least that's what I thought. It was a Tuesday morning in late September. The air had that crisp autumn bite to it, the kind that makes you feel alive when you breathe in deep. I was about 20 minutes into my run, hitting that sweet spot where your body stops complaining and just moves. My dog Bailey was trotting alongside me, tongue out, happy as always. Then she bolted. Just like that, no warning. She crashed off the trail into the dense underbrush on the left side. Bailey never does that. She's a golden retriever. Yeah, but she's trained. She stays with me. But something had her attention locked, and she was gone before I could even shout her name. I stopped running and called after her. Nothing. Just the sound of her crashing through branches, getting farther away. I pushed into the underbrush after her, branches scraping my arms, spider webs hitting my face. The woods here were thick, the kind of dense forest that most joggers never bothered exploring. I must have pushed through for 5 minutes before the underbrush opened up into a small clearing I didn't even know existed. And that's where I found Bailey, sniffing around what looked like a makeshift camp. A tarp was stretched between 4 trees, creating a shelter. Underneath was a sleeping bag, still laid out like someone had just gotten up. A camping stove sat on a flat rock. Everything was organized, neat, deliberate. My first thought was homeless person, someone living rough. I felt bad, like I was intruding on someone's private space. But then I noticed how clean everything was. The equipment wasn't old or worn. This wasn't someone down on their luck. This was someone choosing to be here, choosing to camp in the middle of Riverside Park, hidden from the trails, hidden from everyone. Bailey was nosing at a large plastic storage bin near the edge of the tarp. I walked over to pull her away, and that's when I saw what was inside the bin. Folders. 3 large 3-ring binders, the kind you'd use for organizing important documents. Why would someone camping in the woods need office binders? My hands were shaking as I opened the first one. I don't know why I was shaking. Some primal instinct, maybe. Some part of my brain that knew what I was about to see before I actually saw it. Photos. Hundreds of photos. All of me. The first page was pictures of me jogging. This very trail. Different days, different outfits, different weather conditions. Someone had been photographing me for weeks, maybe months. The photos were organized chronologically, each one labeled with a date and time. I flipped the page, my heart starting to hammer in my chest. More photos. Me at the grocery store, me pumping gas, me sitting in my car in traffic. Someone had followed me, actually followed me away from the park, into my normal life, and documented it. The next page made my stomach drop. Photos of my apartment building, me on my balcony, drinking coffee, me walking to my car in the parking lot, close-ups of my license plate. I couldn't breathe. The folder fell from my hands, and I grabbed the second binder. Maybe it was something else. Maybe this was some kind of misunderstanding. It wasn't. The second binder was notes. Pages and pages of handwritten notes in tight, meticulous handwriting. My daily schedule broken down to the minute. Work address, gym membership location, my favorite coffee shop, the route I took to my parents' house on Sundays, everything. There were observations, too. Things about me that no one should know unless they'd been watching closely, really closely. Subject prefers vanilla lattes, always tips exactly $2. Subject struggles with insomnia. Bedroom light stays on until approximately 1:30 a.m. on weekdays. Subject drives a 2019 Honda Civic, license plate Delta Yankee 7429er. That last one was wrong. My plate was Delta Yankee 7439er. They'd made a mistake on one digit, but everything else was perfect, absolutely perfect. The third binder was the worst. It was plans. Not detailed plans, but notes about access points. Apartment balcony door lock appears standard, likely pickable. Works late on Thursdays, parking garage mostly empty after 7 p.m. No security cameras at gym entrance. Whoever this was hadn't just been watching. They'd been planning. Planning what? I didn't want to know. That's when I heard it. Footsteps, not Bailey's paws on leaves. Human footsteps, boots on forest floor, crunching through the underbrush. Coming toward the clearing, coming back to camp. I dropped everything. The binder hit the ground, pages falling out. I didn't care. I grabbed Bailey's collar and ran, just ran back the way I'd come, branches whipping my face, roots trying to trip me. Behind me, I heard the footsteps speed up. They'd seen me. They knew someone had found their camp. Bailey was barking, confused about why we were running, but she kept pace with me. Good girl, good girl. I kept repeating it in my head like a prayer. We crashed back onto the trail, and I ran harder than I've ever run in my life. My lungs were burning. My legs felt like they were going to give out. But I couldn't stop. I made it to the parking lot in what must have been record time. 3 other cars were there now, early morning joggers, starting their runs. I fumbled for my keys with shaking hands, dropping them twice before I got the door open. Bailey jumped in, and I locked the doors immediately. That's when I realized I'd dropped my phone. Back there in the clearing, I'd been holding it when I opened that first binder, and in my panic, I must have dropped it. They had my phone now, with all my contacts, all my information. I drove straight to the police station. Didn't go home, didn't go to work, just drove there doing 20 over the speed limit the whole way, checking my rearview mirror constantly to make sure no one was following me. The police took my statement. They sent officers to the location I described. I waited in the station for 2 hours, drinking terrible coffee, petting Bailey, trying not to have a complete breakdown in their lobby. When the officers came back, they looked confused. They'd found the general area I'd described. They'd even found some disturbed underbrush where Bailey and I had pushed through. But the camp was gone, completely gone. The tarp, the sleeping bag, the bins, the folders, everything, like it had never existed. They did find one thing, though. My phone, lying in the leaves where I'd dropped it, battery dead. They were professional about it. They took photos of the area, bagged my phone as evidence, took my fingerprints to eliminate them from anything they might find. But I could see it in their eyes. Without physical evidence, without the camp, it was just my word. And people make mistakes. People see things that aren't there. Stress does funny things to the mind. But I know what I saw. I know what was in those binders. The police increased patrols in that area for a few weeks. They checked for any similar reports, any other stalking cases that matched this pattern. Nothing. They interviewed other regular joggers at the park. No one had seen anyone camping in the woods. No one had noticed anything unusual. After a month, the case went cold. Not officially closed, but no active leads. They told me to call immediately if anything else happened, to be vigilant, to change my routines. So I did. I moved apartments 2 weeks after it happened. Broke my lease, didn't care about the penalty fee. I wasn't staying in a place someone had been photographing. I found a place across town, 4th floor, No balcony. Good security. I changed my phone number, updated all my passwords, deleted my social media accounts. I quit my job and found work at a different company on the other side of the city. I stopped jogging outside, completely. I joined a gym with 24-hour security and cameras everywhere. I run on a treadmill now, surrounded by people, under fluorescent lights. It's not the same. I hate it. But I can't go back to that trail. I can't go back to any trail, because here's the thing that keeps me up at night. I never saw them, not once. Whoever it was is still out there. Maybe they moved on to someone else. Maybe they're watching some other woman jogging some other trail, building another profile, taking more photos. Or maybe they're still watching me. Maybe they found my new apartment. Maybe they know where I work now. Maybe they're just better at hiding now, more careful, more patient. I'll never know. And that's the worst part. Not knowing if it's over. Not knowing if I'm safe. Not knowing if every stranger I pass on the street might be them, recognizing me, still watching, still documenting, still planning. I don't jog anymore. I probably never will again. That part of my life is over, stolen by someone who thought they had the right to turn me into their project. I was 16 when this happened, and I still have nightmares about it. It was a Wednesday afternoon in early October, around 4:30. I'd stayed late after school for a club meeting, and I was rushing to get home before dark. My usual route took me around the park, but that day I was running late, and I decided to cut through the wooded section instead. It would save me 10 minutes. I'd done it a few times before during the day, never had any problems. This time was different. The path was narrow, tree branches forming a canopy overhead that made everything darker than it should have been. The sun was setting, casting long shadows through the woods. I had my backpack on, earbuds in, but music turned low because my mom always told me to stay aware of my surroundings. I was walking fast, just wanting to get through and get home. That's when I heard it. Children laughing. Not the playful kind of laughter you hear on a playground, but something that sounded off, strained almost, and then crying. A child crying, calling out for help. My first instinct was concern. Why would kids be this deep in the woods? Were they lost? Hurt? I pulled out my earbuds and called out, "Hello? Are you okay? Where are you?" The crying continued, moving deeper into the trees, off the main path. I hesitated, but the sound was so distressing. What if a kid was really hurt and I just walked away? I couldn't live with that. So I followed. The voices seemed to stay just ahead of me, always the same distance away. Children's voices, multiple children now, laughing and crying and calling out. I kept pushing through branches, stepping over roots, going deeper into the woods. "I'm coming to help you," I called out. "Where are you?" Then suddenly the voices stopped. Complete silence. I found myself standing in a small clearing I didn't recognize. The trees were thick around me, and I realized I'd strayed pretty far from the path. My heart started beating faster. "Hello?" I said again, my voice smaller now. That's when I heard the adult voices. "She's here," a man's voice said from somewhere to my left. Another voice responded from my right, also male. "I see her." My stomach dropped. These weren't children. There were never any children. I spun around, trying to locate the voices, and that's when I saw movement in the trees. Multiple figures, adults, positioned around the clearing like they'd been waiting for me. The children's laughter started again, but now I could tell it was coming from speakers. Recordings playing from different directions. I ran. I didn't think about which direction. I just ran as fast as I could. I could hear them crashing through the brush behind me. Multiple people calling to each other. "She's heading toward the lake," one shouted. "Cut her off," another responded. They were coordinating, like this was something they'd done before. I broke through the tree line and saw water ahead. The park lake. Without thinking, I plunged straight in, the cold water shocking my system. I waded, then swam toward the opposite shore, my backpack weighing me down. Behind me, I could hear the children's voices again, the recordings trying to lure me back. "Come back," a child's voice called. "Help us, please come back." I reached the other side and pulled myself onto the bank, soaking wet, my shoes full of water. I ran along the road until I saw houses, lights, people, safety. I collapsed on someone's lawn, and they called the police. The police searched the woods and found speaker equipment hidden in the trees, battery-powered, still playing the recordings on a loop. But no one was there. No suspects, no vehicles, nothing. They traced the recording, and that's when they told me something that made my blood run cold. The children's voices were from audio recordings of a missing child case from 8 years ago. A little girl who was never found. Someone had used her voice to lure people into the woods. How many others had they caught before me? How many didn't make it to the lake? The police never found who was responsible. The case went cold. They told me I was lucky, that running toward the water instead of trying to find the path probably saved my life. I never cut through those woods again. I never take shortcuts anymore, no matter how late I'm running. And whenever I hear children playing, even in the middle of the day in a crowded playground, I stop and make sure I can see them. Because I know now that sometimes the most innocent sounds can hide the worst intentions. We wanted privacy for our anniversary. We found a fresh grave instead, and the men burying the body saw us watching. This is our story, mine and Trent's, and we're telling it together because we both need people to understand what we saw. It was our 3-year anniversary, and we wanted to do something special but low-key. We decided on a picnic at Red Hills State Park. Nothing fancy, just the two of us and a bottle of wine watching the sunset. We thought we were being romantic. We almost died instead. We got to the park around 6:30 p.m., golden hour, perfect lighting. The main picnic areas were occupied, families and couples everywhere. We wanted privacy, something more secluded, so we decided to hike deeper into the park. There was a trail marked "Closed for maintenance," but the gate wasn't locked. We figured it would be fine. Just a quick hike to find a quiet spot. That decision haunts us both. The trail led through thick woods for about 15 minutes before opening into a beautiful clearing. No one around, just us and nature. Perfect. We spread out our blanket, opened the wine, and started unpacking food. For maybe 20 minutes, everything was perfect, peaceful. We were laughing, talking about our future, completely at ease. Then we heard it. A rhythmic sound, metal hitting dirt. Thud, thud, thud. We both stopped talking and listened. "What is that?" I asked. Trent stood up, trying to locate the source. "Sounds like digging," he said. "Maybe maintenance workers." We walked toward the sound, maybe 50 yards through some trees, and that's when we saw them. 2 men with shovels, filling in a hole, a large hole. And at the edge of that hole was something wrapped in black plastic, a body bag. We both knew immediately what we were looking at. One of the men must have sensed us because he turned his head and looked directly at us. For a second, nobody moved. Then he dropped his shovel and said something to the other man. They both started walking toward us. Not running, walking, but with purpose, like they had all the time in the world. We ran, left everything behind, the blanket, the food, the wine, and sprinted back toward the trail. Behind us, we could hear them crashing through the woods, getting faster. "Split up," one of them yelled. They were going to cut us off. We stayed together. Trent grabbed my hand. and we veered off the main trail, thinking we could lose them in the dense woods. Bad idea. The terrain was rougher. Roots and rocks everywhere. I nearly fell twice. Behind us, we could hear them calling to each other. They're heading west. Block the fire road. They knew this park. They'd planned this. We were in their territory. We came to a ravine, steep sides, and a creek at the bottom. No way around it in time. We had to go down. We slid down the muddy slope, splashed through the freezing water, and climbed up the other side. My hands were bleeding from grabbing rocks and roots. Trent was pulling me up when we heard an engine, a truck, somewhere on the trails above us. They had a vehicle. They were going to block our escape route. We kept moving, staying low, trying to be quiet. We could hear the truck driving parallel to us, the men shouting coordinates to each other. They were hunting us like animals. We finally broke through to a fire road and saw the truck parked sideways, blocking the path. The two men were standing next to it, waiting. They'd predicted exactly where we'd come out. We turned and ran the other direction, deeper into unfamiliar territory. Our only advantage was that it was getting darker, and they couldn't see us as well. We ran for what felt like forever, but was probably 15 minutes, until we finally saw lights. The highway, civilization, safety. We crashed through the tree line and flagged down the first car we saw, a family with kids. They saw the state we were in, covered in mud and blood, and immediately called the police. The police searched the area that night with dogs and helicopters. They found our picnic setup, untouched, but they found no disturbed earth where we'd seen the digging. No body bag. No tracks from a truck, nothing. It was like it never happened. The officers were polite, but clearly skeptical. Two young people, bottle of wine, probably saw something innocent and panicked. But 3 weeks later, a detective called us. They'd found a body in a different part of the park. Shallow grave, same time frame. They couldn't prove it was the same men. Couldn't place us anywhere near that location. The case is still open, but we know what we saw. We know how close we came. We got married a year later. Small ceremony, nothing fancy. But we never picnic outdoors anymore. We can't. Every time we try, we remember that golden hour that turned into the worst night of our lives. And we remember those two men walking toward us with shovels in their hands and murder in their eyes. Some anniversaries you celebrate. This one we just try to survive remembering. I worked park security for 23 years, and I thought I'd seen everything. Vandals, drug deals, people doing things in public they shouldn't be doing. After 23 years, nothing surprised me anymore. I was wrong. My last shift, my very last night before retirement, showed me something I still can't explain. Something that made me quit early and refuse to ever go back. It was a Tuesday night, 2 a.m., dead quiet. I was doing my final patrol of Oakmont Park, a huge city park with multiple sections. The oldest part, near the east entrance, was scheduled for demolition the following month. Old pavilion, crumbling infrastructure, liability issues. The city had already fenced most of it off, but I still had to do a walkthrough every night to make sure no one was squatting or causing trouble. I'd been looking forward to retirement for months. My wife had planned a party. My kids were flying in from out of state. One more shift, then I was done. Free. I should have called in sick. The pavilion area was pitch black, except for my flashlight. The old structure was boarded up, condemned signs posted everywhere. I was doing my usual sweep around the perimeter when I heard it. A child crying, not loud, but clear, coming from inside the boarded-up pavilion. I stopped and listened. "Hello?" I called out. Is someone in there? The crying continued. Then a small voice, maybe 5 or 6 years old. Help me, the voice said. I'm scared. My first thought was some kid had snuck in and gotten trapped. It happened more often than you'd think. I radioed dispatch, told them I had a possible child in distress, and approached the pavilion. The main entrance was boarded solid, but I knew there was a loose section on the south side where the wood had rotted. I pried it open and squeezed through. Inside was darker than outside, my flashlight beam cutting through dust and decay. Where are you, buddy? I called out. Keep talking so I can find you. The voice responded, Over here. But it came from the far corner. I walked toward it, my boots echoing on the old concrete floor. Stay where you are. I'm coming to get you, I said. But as I moved forward, the voice spoke again from behind me. Over here. I spun around, my flashlight finding nothing but empty space. What the hell? Kid, this isn't funny, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. Where are you? The child's voice responded, but this time it came from directly above me, from the rafters. Up here. But there was nothing there. No one. Just rotting wood and shadows. That's when the voice changed. Not gradually, but instantly. 1 second it was a child. The next it was an adult man's voice, deep and rough. You shouldn't have come in here. Then it changed again. An elderly woman, raspy and thin. We've been waiting for you, Vaughn. It knew my name. My blood went cold. I backed toward the entrance, my flashlight sweeping the pavilion. Who's there? I demanded, my hand moving to my radio. The voice cycled again, back to the child. Don't leave. Play with us. Then I saw it. In the far corner, partially hidden in shadow. A figure. But it wasn't standing right. The proportions were wrong. Arms too long, bent at angles that weren't natural. And it was too tall, maybe 7 feet, hunched over, but still scraping the ceiling. The thing made a sound I'll never forget. Multiple voices at once, screaming, laughing, crying, all layered together into something that wasn't human. And then it moved. Not walked, moved. Fast, impossibly fast, coming straight at me on all fours like some kind of animal. I ran, dropped my flashlight, didn't care, just ran for that entrance. I could hear it behind me, that horrible chorus of voices getting closer. I squeezed through the gap in the boards, splinters tearing my uniform, and burst out into the open air. I turned back, expecting it to follow, but it had stopped at the entrance. I could see it through the gap, that wrong shape, those 2 long limbs. It wasn't coming out. It stayed just inside the threshold, watching me. The voices started again, all of them speaking at once. Come back, Vaughn. Come back. Come back. I got to my car, hands shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. I drove straight home, called my supervisor at 3:00 a.m. and quit. No notice, no retirement party, nothing. I told him I was done, effective immediately. I didn't tell him why. I couldn't. Who would believe me? The pavilion was demolished 2 weeks later. I heard from a former co-worker that the construction crew complained the whole time about feeling watched, about hearing voices that no one could find. 3 workers quit mid-job. The city ended up paying double to get it finished because no crew wanted to stay there after dark. I never worked security again. I'm 55 years old. I need the income, but I can't do it. Every dark building, every empty space, I see that pavilion. I hear those voices. My wife still doesn't understand why I turned down the retirement party, why I won't talk about my last shift. How do I explain that something was living in that pavilion? Something that could sound like anyone, that could mimic voices perfectly, that was using them to lure people inside. Sometimes late at night, When the house is quiet, I swear I hear it. Just for a second. A child's voice calling my name, or my wife's voice from a room she's not in. I know it's just my imagination, trauma playing tricks, but part of me, the part that saw that thing in the pavilion, knows the truth. It learned my voice that night, and I don't think things like that forget. If these stories made you check your locks, look over your shoulder, or think twice about that late-night walk in the park, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now. Because there are hundreds more true stories like these, and you'll want to hear every single one. Drop a comment telling me which story scared you the most. Was it the hidden camp, the fake children, the ritual ground, the burial, or that thing in the pavilion? Let me know and stay safe out there. Parks aren't always what they seem.